Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Hi, Katrina. How are you?
Hi, good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Let's wait for 2-3 more minutes for others to join, and then we'll begin the session. Yeah.
That's cool.
Uh,
It's a little bit late too. Sorry.
yeah. No worries. Any doubts in anything? Did you find the chance to watch yesterday's video?
I think I was on yesterday for
You were there
philosophy.
for pranayam, but I'm not too sure if you were there for
Did I miss
philosophy.
philosophy? I was trying to catch up. I caught up on one this morning, which was Ayurveda, and then I had anatomy after that.
Okay.
And then I got my times all wrong. I'm in New Zealand and I'd kind of got them all back to front. So I think I've got them right now.
No worries, no worries. Okay, that would have been uploaded on YouTube, so you can catch up on that whenever you find the time. It's the introductory class for this subject.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll go and catch up. We'll see that one.
great. I think let's wait for 2 more minutes. Okay, let's wait. Then we'll begin the class. Okay, I think we can begin. So, back neck straight, just gently close your eyes and start observing your breath. The natural flow of your breath as you inhale and as you exhale. And just relax your neck and shoulders. Make sure that your weight is equally balanced on both the hips. And slowly come back to your breath. And begin to deepen your breath, relaxing the mind with each inhalation and exhalation. Preparing ourselves for chanting Om, followed by the mantra. Exhale completely. And inhale for Om. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah. Sarve santu niravaranah. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschit dukhabhag ma kaschit dukhabhag. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Just feel the vibrations. Join both the palms together in front of the chest and rub both the palms together. Place them on the eyes. And very slowly, while blinking and looking at your palms, open up your eyes, come back to the smile. Let us begin today's session. So yesterday we talked about, philosophy in general, and then we also discussed a little bit of yoga, what yoga is, and I, discussed just a very general meaning of yoga. And today we are going to go in a depth about what yoga is. Okay, so wait, today since I have access to the computer, I will share my screen, and it will be easier even for other students who watch, just directly note down all the terms that I will be writing down. Okay. So today we're going to go in depth about the meaning of yoga, because our subject is yoga philosophy, right? And in order to understand what it is, we need to fully and deeply understand what yoga is. So today we are discussing yoga meaning. I hope my screen is visible to all of you. Yeah? If it isn't, let me know. So we are discussing the meaning of yoga, and yesterday I told you yuj. This is the root word from which yoga has been derived, and this means to unite, yoke, or we can also say union. So this is the meaning of the root word, and generally what happens is the word takes up the meaning of the root word, right? So actually yoga is a process which leads to union, to a yoking, to joining. So yuj also means to join. Okay, and this is the entire process of yoga, and actually the entire process is done to achieve this union. So whenever I use the word union, there are generally two objects that unite together, right? Union cannot take place just with just one entity cannot unite with itself, I can say. There are two things which unite. So when you read a very general definition of yoga, you will see that Jivatma, which is individual consciousness, and Paramatma, these are two terms that you will find. Individual consciousness and the universal consciousness. So you will see that individual consciousness is called Jivatma, and Paramatma, which in our language it also means when we address God. So even if you don't believe in God, there is this universal energy that is, we are surrounded by this universal energy, and when we feel one with this universal energy, that is when the point of yoga occurs. Okay. So this is a very basic definition that you will find, the union between Jivatma and Paramatma. Now, yesterday I also discussed that for modern understanding, what we can do is we can actually see yoga as, the union between the body, mind, and the soul, right? So somewhere there is some uniformity, some consistency that is coming in when we talk of yoga. Yeah. So there's some discipline that is coming in. Some places you will find that, it is described as a discipline. So it has various interpretations depending on who is giving that definition. Okay. So for us, when we are going deep into the study of yoga, there are two major texts that we are going to refer to mostly. One of which is Patanjali Yoga Sutra. I will be writing this down also. And the other one is Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita. You must have heard of Bhagavad Gita. At least it's a very famous text. Yeah, even if you haven't, that's okay. Right? So these are the two texts that we really need to, see the meaning, what is the meaning of yoga that is given in these two texts. So I will be touching upon that. But before that, there was a very famous, rishi called Maharishi Patanjali. Okay. And he is actually known to have, given like the grammatical text has been written by him, and he is known to give the meaning of yoga in that, and he has given three meanings, okay, of yoga. So he said that just one term is not enough. So let me break this down for you. First he said, uh, you know 𝐤𝐸𝐴𝐴 Okay, first term that he used to describe yoga was 𝐤𝐸𝐴𝐴, which actually means control or restraint. Okay. Then he gave another term which is called 𝐻𝐸𝐴𝐴, which means samadhi. I will explain this also. I will explain all three of them. And last he said yoga or union. So he said that in order to understand yoga, we need to understand all three of them. And this is the holistic meaning of the process of yoga. Okay. So first thing he used was 𝐻𝐸𝐴𝐴. Okay. Or the term which means control or restraint. Okay. So he said that this process is actually a process which involves control or restraint. Okay, now this doesn't mean that you have to be very controlling or you have to force yourself. This control comes very naturally. When you walk on the path of yoga, you will also see, like, as your classes proceed with the practice of asanas, pranayama, meditation, especially all three of these things, as you practice more and more, you will see a change within you, right? So earlier, suppose you used to go out and you used to imagine your favorite food, okay, and very unhealthy junk food that you like, okay. So earlier, when you used to go out and used to see that food item, you would immediately, without thinking, go and buy it and consume it. But as your awareness of Ayurveda, of what you should eat, what you should not eat in your during your yoga journey, when this awareness starts coming in, now same scenario will happen. You will go out, you will see that food item, but now this second thought will come in your mind that, okay, I should not be eating this, right? So what is happening? A very subtle change. I'm not saying that you would not buy it this time around. You might end up doing that, but a very subtle change has started coming on your mental level, on your physical level, where you are at least putting in, there is no automated response that you have. Now at least you have one, one stop in between where the thought comes up that this thing is not good for me to eat right now while I'm practicing yoga. So you cannot force this restraint. So control and restraint make us feel as if something forceful is happening, right? The word is such. However, it means that naturally, by the practice of various limbs of yoga, you will see a control and restraint that has come up on the mind now. Okay, now you will think before acting. Now you will not go for automatic responses as you used to. Okay, which will lead you to the second stage. So there is some control, there is some I would say power that you acquire over the mind, where you are able to direct it. Okay, earlier it was directing you. Now slowly you are becoming the person who is directing the mind. Once you start doing this, once you gain the control, that is when you will go into the process of samadhi. Okay, now you must have heard of the term samadhi or absorption. It is the eighth limb in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. So that is what he is saying. Without controlling the mind, you will never be able to enter samadhi. So he said, okay, first thing that happens in the process is some level of control starts happening. Okay, then he says that that control is the only reason why you will be able to attain samadhi. Okay, if you do not have control, there is no point on moving to the next meaning that he has given, because if there is no control, samadhi is totally impossible. Even when you see the limbs of yoga, so he gives pratyahar first, then he gives dharana, then he gives dhyan. What is all of this doing, right? It is getting control for you. Okay, so that is what it is doing, right? And then when you come to a point where he said that you reach the deeper meaning of yoga, which is samadhi or yuj samadhi, that is when the absorption in the object takes place. Okay, and when this absorption in the object takes place, that is when you reach the even more deeper meaning of yoga, which is yujir yoge or union. If you are not in a state of samadhi, there is no way in which you can experience that union. Because see, samadhi also has different types. Okay, so some samadhi you return back from. So, but there is a point in your sadhana where you touch that samadhi from which there is no return. And after that, you will only achieve the final goal, which is actually called Kaivalya by Maharishi Patanjali ji. So he said that when you attain samadhi, after that you will go deeper. And when you go deeper in your sadhana, that is when you will reach a point where you will reach yujir yoge. okay, or union will take place at that point of time. So he very systematically described the entire meaning of yoga by using these three terms. All right. Any doubt in any of this? Oh,
No, I'm good.
oh, great. Okay. So if at any point of time you feel you need to ask anything, just unmute yourself and let me know. Okay. So then let's come to, as I mentioned, Maharishi Patanjali. This is a name you will see a lot being mentioned, like a lot of times by me in your yoga philosophy classes. He was a very important person, and he was the one who systematized the entire process of yoga. Okay, so when we discuss about the history of yoga, you will see how I, mention him, and on the basis of his systematizing the entire process of yoga, the timeline is also divided: pre-classical, post-classical. So his period was called classical period. I'll be going in depth when I cover the history of yoga. Okay, and in his text, he gave the definition of yoga, and he said yogas chitta vritti, yogas chitta vritti nirodha, and this he said in the first chapter, second sutra. So 1.2 means first chapter and second sutra. When I discuss the text in detail, we will have an entire class on the discussion of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Then I will tell you the chapters, the sutras, everything I will go in detail. But for now, just knowing this is enough. So I missed Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha, or a very common translation of this is cessation of mental modifications is called yoga. So you can just note it down, and then I will explain this to you. Okay. Somebody is unmuted, I guess. Can you just mute yourself? Okay. So I hope everybody has written by now. So I'll begin to explain, right? So he said Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. And this text you will find he has written in a very beautiful manner. And in the beginning only, see first chapter and second sutra. So after the first sutra, he directly dives into what you are aiming to achieve. What is the point? What is the state of mind that you are aiming to achieve? And when he describes this, he says, Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Okay. And he says that yoga. So yogas over here till here, yogas is yoga. Yoga is. What is yoga? The process in which chitta vritti nirodh. Chitta is one word. Okay. Representing the entire mental field. Vritti is the second word, representing your mental modifications. And nirodh represents cessation. Okay, so these are the three terms. Let's understand all three of them in detail. So Chitta does not have any shape or form. All right. Chitta represents the entire mental field, and it includes not only your mind, it includes three parts. It's the mental field in its totality. It includes manas. Manas is the mind. Okay. Then second component is buddhi, which is your intellect. And third component is ahankar or ego. He said that the chitta includes all three of these things. Manas, which is mind, buddhi, which is intellect, and ahankar, which is ego. Okay, so all three of them constitute the mental field that he is talking about. Okay. Let me explain each and every component to you in detail. So manas is actually, your mind is actually a bridge between the external world and your buddhi or intellect. Okay, so whenever something external to me happens, there is this perceiver. Okay, the instrument, the tool which perceives whatever is happening in the sensory world and gives that information to the internal decision-making faculty. Okay, so whatever is happening outside, it's basically a connection between whatever is happening outside your senses, whatever they are perceiving, and it channels all of whatever is going on to the intellect or buddhi. Okay, so it has both external and internal connection, right? Then what happens is, whatever is happening outside, it takes it inside for further processing, right? So that processing, where does it take place? Where does that take place? It takes place in your buddhi or intellect. So suppose you see fire somewhere, right? So your senses are perceiving it and your mind is taking that information to the intellect. And then the intellect, because of its previous understanding or for whatever reason, understands that there is a fire outside and that, you need to either get away from it or call for help, however you react to that situation, right? So this decision is being given by the intellect. The intellect is forming that impression that this is how you need to act. Okay, first impression that will come is it's a dangerous situation, right? Or you need to get away from this situation. So it will harm you. So all of this processing is actually going on in the intellect portion of the chitta. However, because we are we live in such a fast-paced world, we do not get the we cannot distinguish this. So when I'm describing this, you will be like, isn't it obvious that I am perceiving fire and I have to go away from it or it is dangerous, right? So these two portions are so closely interlinked and they function so fast that this division, generally we cannot see this division between mind and intellect. However, it is your intellect which is giving the final judgment on whatever is going on. This will be easier for you to observe when you go and experience something new, because that is when you will see a gap between the mind and the intellect. Because when you perceive something new, you take that experience in and then you will see your intellect give some judgment on that experience, and then that is how the impression is formed in the mind. Okay, but for the example that I have taken, it would seem very quick that these two portions are functioning together very quickly, and you do not have to think twice before you perceive something which has already happened, right? And then the portion of ahankar or ego comes in, which is again a very important portion of the chitta, which gives you your own identity, right? So being an individual or being separate from everyone else. Or I can also put it that whatever experiences you are having, you think that they are my experiences. So this my experiences, this feeling of it being my, mine. It is mine. That feeling is again and again reinforced by this portion of the chitta called ahankar. Okay. Any doubts in any three of these? Okay, great. See, this is a very important sutra throughout your yoga journey. This is the one that will matter the most. All right. So if you have any doubts, just feel free to ask. Okay. Then we come to the next term, which is called vritti. Yeah. And I have written mental modification in front of it. So the fluctuations, we can also call this, fluctuation. So there is a fluctuation that goes on in your chitta, okay, and that fluctuation is the vritti. And when you see the meaning of vritti, you will see that it is also circular. This is another meaning that you will see of the term vritti, so circular. So you can say that the fluctuation that is going on in the chitta, again and again, certain impressions are being formed in the chitta. Suppose something happens external to you. There is some impression that is formed in the mind, right? There is some way in which you perceive that situation. So most of the times what happens is we're not able to see things as they are. We see things as we are. So that is what this entire, quote or famous saying can be understood by this, sutra that he gave, and in it, vritti word that he gave, that, whenever we see something, we do not see the direct picture. We do not perceive the thing as it is. We perceive it as we are. So because of our impressions and because of the impression that that thing will form on us, depending on how our experiences with that thing, there is some modification. That is why it's called mental modification. There is some modification that you put into whatever you experience, and that modification leaves an impression on the chitta, which is called vritti. Okay, so a very common example of this is like I throw a stone in the pond, right? So when I throw the stone in the pond, wherever the stone will hit, you will see that there is a circular, and multiple circles take place. So the ripple effect, takes place. So if I throw the stone, one circle, and then it will expand. That ripple will be created by that stone. So same thing is happening. That stone can represent whatever is happening external to you, and when that is when somebody throws that in the pond called chitta, then it leads to the vrittis, right? And the modification takes place. So that ripple that is being formed, those are the vrittis because of that stone, and the pond represents the chitta. And when you throw a stone in the pond, and suppose there is like full moon day, and the moon is reflected on the lake, right? So when you throw that stone in the lake, you see that the image of the moon starts moving and gets blurry, right? So same thing is happening with us. Again, the moon is stable. The moon is just the way it is. It is the pond in which we see the reflection, and because of the vritti forming in that pond, in the chitta, we are not able to see the object as it is. Now, because this is an external example, you can clearly see that the moon is just as it is. But when I see it in a pond where I throw the stone, it starts moving. Actually, it's not moving. So same thing is going on inside of us. We are not actually able to see the moon as it is. We are seeing a very blurry or moving picture of the moon, right? And is it the correct image that we are forming of the moon? No, right? So same thing is happening with us. We are not able to see things as they are. we always have some impression that is formed in the chit related to that thing, and it prevents us from staying connected to the reality, right? What is, we are not connected with that. And yoga is the entire process of yoga is actually cessation. Let's come to nirodha, cessation of this mental modification. So the chit is very easily disturbed. It doesn't need a lot of you do not have to convince it a lot. Even a very tiny sound or something that we see, chit is very easily disturbed. Okay, you do not have to necessarily throw a very big stone in the pond. It can be a very small stone also. You must have seen, if you only like throw a very small stone in the pond, it will again create that ripple effect. It doesn't matter how big the stone is, ripple effect is still created. The intensity would vary, of course, but ripple effect will still be created by the stone. So same thing, that cessation, no matter how small the vritti is, it's going to cause movement in the chitta. And cessation of those mental modifications is the entire process of yoga. Now, cessation is also very important. We need to understand this word cessation also very clearly. Like above I wrote, restraint or control. Yeah. So we have certain ideas about restraint and control, right? So same thing, cessation, when we think of cessation, we feel that, there is a lot of effort that you need to put in so that, everything ceases to bother us, or, everything settles, right? But this is not the way in which the term cessation is used. See, when we translate one language to another, there is some essence that you lose in that translation. So again, same thing happened. Sutra form of the Yoga Sutras, when they were translated to even Hindi. Hindi is very close to Sanskrit. Hindi came out of Sanskrit. You will see that again, from the sutra to Hindi translation, it loses some essence. And then when it goes to a language which is really far off from the origin point, right? So again, it loses a major chunk of its, meaning or essence, right? So when it is translated to English, it's called cessation. However, nirodha is actually a very natural process. You do not, of course, you have to put in work to reach to a state where the mental modifications cease to exist. However, the process will, the consistency will require effort. However, it is the nature of the process that will naturally lead to the cessation. So again, this is never forced. Now, suppose you are practicing asana every day. Suppose you want to go for a full split, right? A lot of students have a lot of aims when they, join yoga courses and they want to achieve certain asanas. So that is good. It's okay to have those, goals set with you. However, you will see that if the student practices, goes for all the pre-practices related to the legs, that will help that student to achieve, the full split. Then the student is, of course, making effort every day to, come on the mat and do those practices. However, it's not under the student's control to say that in 30 days, I will open up my split, right? If the body is more stiff, if the diet is not changed, environment is not changed, it might take longer. And for someone who is, going about it very differently, changing the food and everything, might be able to achieve it even earlier than the 30-day target. So it is by default that the person is going for pre-practices that the split will open up, right? The person is not forcing the split to open up. They're just diligently practicing each and every day so that the split opens up, right? So in same way, you have to make effort every day. However, this cessation that will happen, it will happen naturally as a part of whatever work you are putting in. This cessation will happen naturally. You can never force this cessation, right? No matter how much you work towards it, you cannot force this state of the mind. So yoga can never be forced. Yoga can never be like, pushing the body too much. It's just putting the effort and waiting very patiently for the results to show up. So specifically, be very mindful during your asana classes. When you go for asanas, be very careful that you do not push your body too hard. Do not, it's a process that you have to enjoy rather than keeping it goal oriented. Try to enjoy the process. When you will enjoy it, you will yourself reach that stage where, you are able to achieve all that you have set in your mind when you are doing this course. But never force yourself. Even throughout the course, I would highly recommend that do not force yourself, because that will only lead you to, create very negative emotions inside of you, right? And we are trying to come to a journey where we are liberating ourselves, we are freeing ourselves from all of this suffering. So do not make suffering a part of your yoga journey. Be very mindful of this, be it for pranayam, be it for meditation. Try to just experience the things as they are. Take a step back. And this will only happen with the practice of meditation. So don't skip your meditation classes. It is very important for you guys to, work on meditation throughout this entire month, right? So now you understand what he meant when he said yoga, this state of mind. What is this state of mind? It is when the mental modifications in your chitta stop naturally, stop by default of doing something. The entire practice of yoga, is to reach this one point, to touch this one point, to make that connection, right? Yesterday also I discussed this thing, to make that connection. And that is the point you are aiming for when you go for yoga. Okay. Any doubts in any of this? Okay, great. If you have any doubts, again, feel free to note them down after the class, and in the consecutive classes also you can ask those doubts. Okay, let's go into the next text for yoga, which is very relevant for us. It is the Bhagavad Gita. I will be taking a very completely separate class on Bhagavad Gita also for you guys. So again, it is a very important text. And in Bhagavad Gita, you will find multiple definitions of yoga, but two of them are very important. First one is Samatvam Yoga Uchyate, 2.48. Yes, it is the second chapter and 48th shlok in the chapter, where Krishna ji says to Arjun, Samatvam Yoga Uchyate, or now see, I told you that cessation of mental modifications is yoga. However, when I'm talking about it, it seems very, wow, okay, this is what yoga is. I had a totally different definition of yoga in mind. However, how can, you achieve this thing? How can I achieve this thing? Now, I explained to you that, okay, this is what yoga is, and you are just like, okay, sounds good, sounds great, but how do I achieve it? So this definition that we have done is directly connected to this definition of you, how to do it, how to reach a point where the mental modifications themselves cease to exist. So this definition connects with it, that maintaining a balance or maintaining equanimity is what yoga is. Krishna ji says this in the second chapter itself when he is explaining everything to Arjun, and he very beautifully puts the process of yoga in this one short shlok. And this is how you have to do. This is the process. And even this process, reaching the state of balance, again, the next definition will form a basis for this. How do you reach the balance? Now I say, okay, balance. Okay, balance of mind is you. So, go and balance your mind. You will again say how. Okay, so then I will come to the third definition. But before that, if I say that, okay, do Vrikshasana, so you will try, do it again and again, and you will somewhere with practice reach that point where you are at least able to balance the physical body. But when we are talking over here, when we are saying balance over here, it doesn't mean balancing posture, right? It means a balance of mind, right? So when he is talking about balance, he means that you are reaching a state of mind where you are unaffected by either happiness or sorrow. These are dualities. If you're asking for one, if you are asking for happiness in your life, be very mindful, because sorrow is just the other side of the coin. If you're asking for happiness, you are going to experience sorrow as well in life. And yoga is the process which sets you on a neutral. Equanimity is being neutral, just seeing the thing as it is and being neutral about it. Do not react, right? So if you're asking for happiness, be ready to experience sorrow as well in your life, because they are two sides of the coin. And what the yogi aims to do is rise above these dualities of life and go to a state which is balanced or neutral, is unaffected by success or failure. The state of the mind is such. It doesn't mean that failure will not come in your life. Yogi, whenever you think of a yogi, will always picture someone who has left everything behind and just walks on in it's he's in seclusion and walks, just keeps walking from one place to another and does his sadhana. So doesn't mean that yogi's life is easy. Walking for miles, for hours, not knowing if they will find food or not. There are so many difficulties that even the person who decides to seclude themselves from the society faces. So the struggle or the suffering will not end. It is just you will slowly learn how to balance the state of your mind, be unaffected by the things that are happening around you. So it doesn't mean indifference or ignorance. Your state of mind will be unaffected by everything that is happening around you. Yeah, you are connected to things, but you are not affected by them. Okay, so yogi will enjoy when there is time for enjoyment and will retreat when there is time for retreating. But when the yogi retreats, they do, he does not miss the joy. It was there, it was for that moment. And same goes when he goes into the retreat, when he is enjoying, when he is interacting with the society, he doesn't at that point of time desire to be alone. He's just there in the present moment and his state of mind is totally unaffected, totally balanced. Heat or cold, sorrow, happiness, success, failure, all of these dualities, he rises above them. But all of those things happen in his life also. On a mental state, he has risen above those things by the process that is given. When you talk of yoga, practice of asanas, pranayamas, all of these things, as you go deeper into your practice, you will observe these things are even starting to happen with you. Earlier you used to get angry at something happening. After these 28 days of classes, you will see that maybe things don't bother you as much, right? Earlier you would get angry in a few seconds. Now you are taking at least 1 minute to, get angry. So observe these tiny, tiny changes that are coming within you, because these are the first steps. And if I take the first step on a path or a journey, I can be sure that I will reach the end point. However, a person who hasn't even taken the first step will never be able to reach the end point, right? So this is what we are aiming to do when we do yoga. we are looking at the tiny changes, because these tiny changes will one day become very big changes for you. You will not even realize it. People around you will see that shift in you, that change in you. And that is the entire beauty of yoga, the entire beauty of attaining that balance in life. It doesn't mean you have to leave behind things. You can still see, it's so beautiful. You can still maintain balance. You do not have to leave everything behind, leave everyone behind. It is a way of living, like I told you. If you are able to maintain that balance in life, nothing is going to affect you, that deeply. You do not give everything around you that power. You know that you have that, power to give something your energy, or to not give something your energy, right? So I think today our time is mostly up. Yeah. Any doubts in this? Tomorrow I will touch up on how you come to this balance. I will go for the third definition. But any doubts in any of this? Whatever we have discussed today? Okay. Okay, great. So let's close the session for today. Yeah. So back and neck straight. And you can gently close the eyes. And start observing your breath. We'll chant Om one time, followed by 3 Shantis. Inhale deeply for Om. Shanti. 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 Just feel the vibrations. Join both your palms together in front of the chest and bow down. Let's take a few moments in our day to be grateful for everything we have. And drop both the palms together. Keep them on the eyes. Very slowly, while blinking and looking at the palms, open up your eyes, come back with a smile. And namaste to everyone. I will see you all for your pranayam class at 3 o'clock today. Yeah? So, bye-bye everyone. See you soon. Bye-bye.